What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. Kelly, one of these days we will get all three of us back on here again.
It's a matter of time. We'll make it happen for sure. We got, busy schedules. We're busy people, and there's just too much content to cover.
Yes.
So we got to sub in and out, but we'll get the full band back together eventually.
So Doctor Strange tickets on sale today. Yep. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And with it came a new sort of 1-minute teaser. Yep. But there was lots of juicy, fun stuff in this 1-minute teaser. Mostly to me, I don't know about you, but to me, this all but confirmed that Wanda will be playing a villainous role.
Yeah,
in this movie.
she's our big bad in this movie for sure. It's so funny, like, I'm sure you've seen this clip on YouTube, as have our listeners. Like, there's a clip from when she first got cast, or a movie in very early on in her days of being Wanda Maximoff, and she said something to the effect of, somebody asked her what her favorite story was, favorite comic, and she pointed out House of M and was like, yeah, but that'll never happen. And it's like, that's absolutely what we're going to get in this movie.
Yes.
Her going a little crazy as a result of losing her kind of real, not so real children from her kind of real, not so real married life in WandaVision. Yeah. It's all very mind-bending, multiverse of madness type stuff.
Also, the return of her accent.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, they're just they're just kind of deciding when they want to, or maybe it's a different version of her potentially.
So Sam Raimi confirmed that we will be seeing, because it's the multiverse, we will be seeing different versions of Wanda and different versions of Doctor Strange, as we already know. So yes. I think you're probably right with that. The scene where, just a super quick shot in the trailer where the doors open and she's standing there and she looks like a zombie is wild. It's wild.
Yeah, and like we also get which we already have, but we get a shot of like a zombie Doctor Strange. So I don't know, maybe they're bouncing around. They end up in the zombie, universe for a little bit. I think this movie, if what I'm gleaning from these trailers, I think this movie is going to be pretty fast paced in terms of moving through all the different.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it came out last week that the runtime for this movie will be 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And people started freaking out, and I'm kind of two minds on this, because it's like, yes, on the one hand, we know they're going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in this movie and like introducing a lot of new characters, but at the same time, not everything needs to be 3 hours.
No, and I think let's reserve the 3 hours for the big kind of tentpole event movies. As much as this seems like it's going to be doing some pretty heavy lifting in the MCU, it's still a solo installment with a few cameos, obviously. But yeah, I'm not. That news did not worry me. If anything, I actually find it kind of refreshing that we're going to get like a tight, fast-paced moving story. I think I referenced this on a previous episode. Like, when in Doctor Strange 1, when he meets up with, why am I forgetting? The original Sorcerer Supreme. I'm forgetting her name. Bald head.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah. So they move through that explanation of everything. That's the explanation of like the magic and the different multiverses, and they go through that whole thing where there's all the different hands and fingers and all these different things. Like, that moves pretty quickly, and so I don't
the ancient one.
Jeez. Not only can we not get the band back together, we're a little rusty on our...
we are a little rusty.
We are a little rusty.
But I think the point that you're trying to, like, that's not, like, of all the MCU movies that you would go back and revisit, that isn't at the top of my list.
God, no. No. And so, but the point I'm trying to make is, I think, like, which we're talking about Moon Knight in a second, like, everything from the Moon Knight trailer which you guys talked about episode 1 last week, was in that first episode.
Yes.
So I think people look at these trailers and think that, him seeing the zombie version of himself or seeing, the what if version of himself are going to be these big blown out action scenes. And I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think you may just very quickly cycle through different universes and different iterations, and they get in, get out, move on.
Yes.
So I think, I would say, wait till the movie's out, folks, before we start panicking on the runtime.
Yeah, I just was seeing all this like discourse on like Reddit and stuff about people being like, oh, they're gonna rush through this. How are they gonna fit this all into 2 hours? And I was like, wait a second. Like, not everything. First of all, as I've said 100 times on this podcast, I have the utmost faith in Kevin Feige. So Kevin Feige's not going to put out a rushed piece of crap. He's never done it. He's not going to do it. And like, if they can get through all this in 2 hours, perfect. Like that's great. Like, not everything needs to be these epic 3-hour events.
Yeah.
So
I think
let's just settle down.
Let's all settle down. It looks like it's going to be a fun time at the movies. I think we're going to get some good cameos. I think that's also like, that's the other part, is people are sort of putting in their expectations from a cameo perspective on this movie. And it's like, we're getting into the whole like Mephisto mess again, where it's like, guys, like not everything and not every theory on the internet is going to be correct.
Yes.
I think we've had this like, we've been spoiled by movies like No Way Home and like, Endgame or whatever, where we got everything we thought we were getting. And it's like, they're not going to be able to pull out every person every time.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of that going on too, where people are assuming, and we've talked about these rumors, they're assuming Tom Cruise is going to be there. They're assuming, I think we're pretty much confirmed that Patrick Stewart's going to be there, but
yes,
they're assuming, all the old and young iterations of the X-Men are going to be in, and we're introducing the Fantastic Four. It's like, whoa. Fans have created this speculation. There's been nothing from Marvel outside of the Patrick Stewart tease, which, is fun. And I think will be a good addition. Like we're probably not getting Fantastic Four in this movie.
No.
So
and
let's all,
everybody just relax. And if we do get Tom Cruise, it's going to be very quick. Like he's going to be like for a scene or two. He's not going to be a mainstay in this film. It's not happening. So yeah, I'm with you. But part of that, you mentioned No Way Home. Part of that is kind of Marvel's fault. Like I've said, another thing I've said 100 times on the show, they've set the bar so high that like you go into these movies and you're just like, what are you going to do to top what you did last time?
Yeah.
And so I think when people see a 2 hour and 6 minute runtime, that's what makes them freak out. But in any event, whatever, I'm looking forward to it. Good little teaser. I'm excited. Apparently all the websites crash in the US today. That was not the case here in Canada.
To get tickets?
I was able to easily go in and get my tickets today. So
there you go. So thumbs up to Canadians.
Moving on. Moon Knight, episode 2. I want to start by saying something, and this is going to sound negative, and I do not mean it to. This is not negative. This is just an observation. This is a realization / observation.
All right, lay it on me.
Let's put to bed henceforth on the Talkin' Pop podcast. Let's put to bed any speculation that Marvel is going to do something along the lines of Daredevil or Punisher.
Okay, it's so funny that you're saying this. We're going down the same path.
Very, very Marvel. And I think we kind of got like, and that's a good thing. Like, I'm not complaining about that at all, but I think we as a group had it in our head because of things that Kevin Feige said and because of the way Moon Knight has been portrayed in the comic books, that this was going to sort of like be a new thing that they were going to introduce. And this episode, particularly the Stephen Grant / Mr. Knight character,
Yeah.
confirmed that no, this is very much a Marvel Studios production.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth. So, if I may, I wasn't able to join the pod last week. So I want to just briefly give my thoughts on episode 1.
Yes.
So I really liked episode 1. I thought it was a fun introduction. I thought it was a good way to just throw you right into the story, and you kind of immediately knew like something's not right with this guy, and and so I think they did a good job of putting a lot of exposition aside and just kind of throwing you into the story. Where the episode felt a little, I don't know, not as exciting to me, I guess, was that we were ahead of the character on knowing what was going on. So it was sort of, whatever it was, 40 minutes of us kind of waiting for him to figure out what we already knew. So that was the only part where I was kind of going like, all right, let's go. Let's see him in the suit. But otherwise, I thought it was a solid first episode. This one, I'm still processing a little bit because I think I'm grappling with what you have just pointed out, so well here, that we went into this with sound bites from Kevin Feige saying like, there's scenes where he's really wailing on somebody and it's violent and we got to pull it. We were wondering if we had to pull it back and stuff. And it's like, okay, like, let's settle down here.
There's a difference between Wilson Fisk decapitating someone with a car door and Moon Knight wailing on a jackal.
Yes. Yeah. And then even if he is wailing on a jackal, when you're cutting that with him looking at himself / his alter ego in the reflection and being like, hey, I look pretty good. It's
so Marvel. Yeah,
it's so Marvel. And so there's part of me that's kind of thinking like, what a fool I was to not know that this was going to be that. But then I think I also was sort of sitting watching this episode thinking, okay, I really got to adjust my expectations, not only of this, which I would say my expectations were kind of here nor there because I don't know a ton about Moon Knight. Mm-hmm. But I do have to adjust my expectations around characters like Daredevil. I need to adjust my expectations around characters like Blade.
Yep.
That because of the universe that Marvel has built, because they have, whatever it's called, Avengers Campus in Disneyland, California, because they are a huge part of the Disney machine, that there's just...
You sign on to Disney Plus and there's like Dory.
Right. Dory and Moon Knight, they're best friends. Yeah. So I think I think this episode, it's taking me a minute to digest it because I had to sort of adjust my expectations and go, right, we're watching Marvel, and of course they're going to give us Marvel. There is a piece of me that sort of feels like I wish they had the guts to do something a little more edgy. I found myself a little bit let down. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, there were still elements that I had fun with.
Yeah, there's certain elements of the show that I'm loving. Like, first and foremost, I love that this is not in New York. It does feel separate. It feels away from everything that's going on, and I'm really enjoying that. Like, it's like that decision is such a great one, and it makes sense to me that, I don't know, like Thor is not coming down to like do something about this, or Captain America or the Winter Soldier, whatever. Like, I'm really enjoying that aspect of it. So in this episode, we kind of got a little bit more insight to the Mark Spector, Stephen Grant dynamic. But we still don't know, like, who's the real guy. Like, we still don't know who that is.
I don't fully... I think that Steven's the real guy.
Yeah.
And that Mark... Okay, now I'm questioning everything. I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Mark's got a debt.
Yes. And to Khonshu.
Khonshu
Khonshu is like... I don't know if I love Khonshu. I'll be honest. Like it's coming off a bit silly. Like I love the whole Egyptian lore and aspect to this. I think that's super cool and super interesting.
I also think he looks great. Like I like the character design.
It's the voice.
It's the borderline Venom, which I think
that's
you
what
and Brad said last week.
Yeah.
It's the borderline Venom-y voice. And it's like, this is supposed to be an Egyptian god. Pardon me if my lore is not totally correct, but like
Egyptian moon god.
An Egyptian moon god who, as we learned in this episode, like punishes people for things that they've done. And,
like the evildoers.
The evildoers. And it's like, so this is where the Marvel formula does start to grate on me a little bit, because I'm like, when you walk through life, let's put superheroes aside. When you go to work every day, when you go to the store, is every person that you come across like a hilarious person? Like, and they've got a joke and a quip to, it's like, not every character needs to have that duality. It's like, how about the moon god is just a badass, scary moon god without cracking silly jokes? That's where it was getting a little like, I'm like, okay, like,
don't love Khonshu thus far.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, but I do like the revelation that we got with Ethan Hawke's character in this episode.
That he was the first Avatar. Yes.
So like Ethan Hawke is, I mean, we're only 2 episodes in, but he's stealing the show for me so far.
You took it out of okay. First of all, before we move on and get to Ethan Hawke, I want to hit on one thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about Mark Spector and Stephen Grant and who's the real person. I think when we eventually meet Mom, that will really, because, you know, he's talking to his mom on the phone and leaving voicemails in the first episode. And then when he sees Layla in this episode, she's like, oh, you're talking to her again? So
interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
So I think
once we meet that together
Mom,
for me.
Once we meet Mom, I think we'll get a sense. And I think your guess is probably right. I think Steven is the real person. And I think Mark just inhabits his body.
Yeah. Although,
Yeah, I know.
Because then I'm like, Mom didn't answer the phone. So like, is Mom even real?
Real. Yes. So then we'll get I don't know. And so they have me. I want to see where that goes.
Yep.
Anyways, Ethan Hawke, Arthur Harrow. Love him. 100% with you. I love that he is such a sort of cerebral villain. He's different. He's not a alien that is trying to destroy the planet, and he's not some sort of like joke cracking Zemo type.
Yep.
He's very like methodical, and he walks slowly, and he believes that he's helping these people. And it's like the way he speaks to him when they're sitting eating the lentil soup, and he's like, you're going to give me the, what's it called? The
scarab.
The scarab. Yes. You're going to give me the scarab. And like, I 100% with you on Ethan Hawke. I think he's awesome.
And also like, so you've got Khonshu, like how he sort of explains it. And I'm going to do a terrible job paraphrasing, but it's like Khonshu and by extension, Moon Knight sort of punish people after the fact.
Yes.
And then you've got
Amit,
who is someone who will look into one's future and prevent. And so it's kind of that, like, you know, I won't name names of people, but it's like, if you could go back and find the childhood version of that person, would you, like, it's that dilemma, which is a really interesting, because it is like a real question people have asked of real life terrible people in this world. And I also like
Rhodey makes the joke in Endgame about finding baby Thanos, and
exactly. That's exactly right. And I like that you can tell, you know, like, so you've got Ethan Hawke's character who is like, you know, obsessed with this, and it's like very cult-like, and he carries himself like this charismatic cult leader. Like, you could see people in the way that he's carrying himself and the way that he's like, you know, in that way of speaking. Like, you saw that the second, like, he was able to very quickly be like, come with me, Steven, and like, listen to what I have to say, and grab a bowl of lentil soup and whatever. Right. And it's like, that's what people of influence can
Yep.
do. Like,
they make you comfortable. They put you at ease.
Yeah, very quickly. Yep. So I think he's doing an awesome job. And also, like, I was trying to think the other day of like all the movies that I've seen Ethan Hawke in. And I'm like, this is so just way out of like left field compared to everything else. So it's also kind of fun to just watch him do something a little different than at least what I've been exposed to in his career.
I was listening to another pod that reviewed episode 1, and they were saying that apparently Oscar Isaac asked Ethan Hawke in a coffee shop to play this character.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. That's super cool.
Yeah, I like that. I will say, like, while we're on the topic of like good performances and whatever, like, as much as some of the Stephen Mark dynamic in this episode got a little goofy for me, I still think Oscar Isaac is crushing it doing like the duality. Like, that's not an easy task, the way that he's developed these two polar opposite characters, and we've only spent a little bit of time with Mark, and you already get a sense of who he is comparative to the goofy, kind of, you know, clumsy, not so
dork.
Yeah. Dork. That is.
And now you're getting the duality with the Moon Knights as well. You're getting Mr. Knight, and you're getting the actual Moon Knight.
See, that I liked that when he was like the suit, and then it was a suit. Like, I'm like, that's a good Marvel joke.
Yes.
But then I was finding the fight scene with the invisible jackal was not my favorite. Like, I was just like, this is not like, we can't even, like, it's just watching him get kicked around. Like, it wasn't my favorite Marvel action scene I've witnessed. So yeah, this episode was a little bit bumpier for me than the first one. And like I said, I think and it's a little bit of expectation versus reality. We thought that this was really going to kind of break the mold, and there's kind of part of me that's like,
no, it's
what were we
I think
thinking?
You're right. Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. It's like okay, we can blame Kevin Feige a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's on us. Like, we should have known better. Like, there's such a huge freight train juggernaut by now doing what they do. And they're all going to tie in together at some point. And Moon Knight needs to be able to cross over and stand beside Rocket Raccoon. And if you are going to have him committing bloody murder on his victims, it's not going to translate as well. So sure, he can wail on a jackal, and that is quote unquote violent, but it doesn't.
It's a jackal.
It's at the end of the day,
I think I said this when we were first reviewing the trailer for it before we started watching the show, was wailing on an inanimate or a CGI creature is a lot different than beating up on another human being, or, you know, slapping another human being at the Oscars. Those are different tonality of violence, and so it's a little bit of expectation versus reality.
So overall, I'll say that, you know, there are, like, not stoked on Khonshu really, but the great actors and the great performances, and the where does Mark end and Steven begin, and how does that work, have me hooked, and I really want to see where that goes. I also think the intrigue of Arthur Harrow being Khonshu's first avatar is super interesting. And they're clearly trying to resurrect Amit, and what's that going to look like? I really hope that it doesn't lead to a Shang-Chi dragon fight where we have two Egyptian gods punching each other. Like, I really hope that's not where this is going. Like, I'd much rather see Moon Knight do the fighting and not CGI Egyptian gods, but that's just me. That's my only thing that I'm a bit worried about as we head on here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I've said this before, I'll say it again. Like I find myself gravitating a little bit more towards the more grounded stories, and when
Yeah.
it's a real life dude having a conflict with a real life dude or woman. And I think you're sadly probably correct that we're heading towards, maybe it'll be a combination of both. That'll be good, but I do think we're heading towards a CGI god jackal fight in Cairo,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Or like we're gonna see Arthur sort of turn into something else. I just yeah I
Yeah.
so yeah I would say, like, so far I'm enjoying the show. I think it's still got to do one, I've got to adjust my expectations a little bit, that like this is a Marvel show, so there is going to be that catering to a more I want to say junior audience, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other piece of it is I I want to learn a little bit more so that I care a little bit more. Like I don't care about in this very moment, it's still episode 2, so not to say I won't, but like I don't care about Layla.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't I
Yeah.
don't like I need a little bit more.
The only thing that makes me care about Layla is the conversation that you and I were having earlier. It's like she and Mark were married. So is
Yeah.
Mark the real guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't know. That to me, that's the most intriguing part of the show thus far. And just watching Ethan Hawke skulk around.
Yes, and yeah, incredible performance from him every time. Like it's one of those things where, like, I'm kind of watching the show, I'm enjoying it, and then Ethan Hawke comes on screen, and I'm like, okay, here we go, we gotta watch this scene. Like
Nice.
that's
Yes.
yeah. So
right,
we'll keep watching, we'll keep reviewing, and we'll see. We'll place bets on if we're gonna get a CGI moon god showdown.
I just feel like we're headed towards that. Really quick, you weren't with us last week. Just touch quickly on the Top Gun Maverick trailer, because I know that this is a film that you're equally as excited about as the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I think there's a TikTok little thing that people say where they'll be like, the people who get it, and the people who don't. Yeah. And that's how I feel about this. Is I'm like, if you are a true blue Top Gun fan, this trailer gave you every beat.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those movies, because a lot of the time, when they do remakes or reboots or sequels or whatever, there's a bit of criticism of like, oh, they're just recreating the first one. Give it to me. I don't care.
100%.
Give me a volleyball game on the beach. Yeah. Give me a piano solo in the bar.
Yeah.
Like let's have like the hothead pilot against the other hothead pilot. Like, yeah. And then, you got Maverick, who's still breaking the rules, and John Hamm's not really sure about that. Like it's all there. Like this is one of those movies that give me all the nostalgia.
All the cheese.
All the cheese, all the nostalgia. I'm not going to see this movie to put it on my list for next year's Best Picture. I'm not going to see this movie to be blown away by plot. I'm going to this movie to enjoy something that's brought a lot of joy to people's lives since it came out in the 80s. And I'm going to watch Tom Cruise fly a fighter jet.
Yes.
So yeah, I continue to be so excited. And the one piece that got me in the feels was that it's Iceman that's like, you better call on Maverick.
There's the part in the trailer,
so nice.
The part in the trailer that that is ultimate fromage for me is there's some dialogue in it that is just a little on the nose. Like it's like at the very beginning when they walk in and like all the pilots are walking into that bar, and Miles Teller, who looks so much like Goose, I don't know how they did that, and the female pilot is like, we're the best in the world, who are they gonna get to teach us? Yeah, and then
I'll tell you who.
And then the part that you just referenced where John Hamm goes, Tom Kazansky, aka Iceman.
Yeah,
It's
love
like
it.
everyone in that room, Maverick knows who Tom Kazansky is. Who
You know
cares?
what?
Yeah,
Who
you don't
cares?
care. Yeah,
Who
you don't
cares?
care. Yeah.
I'm ready. I would be like fully fine if like the movie just like stops for a few minutes and they cut over to Kenny Loggins just like singing a ballad. Like
Yeah.
they can do all the cheese in this movie. I do not care.
100%.
This is what I think, like it's actually kind of just like a statement on a actor like Tom Cruise, who's, for lack of a better word, a little bit past his prime. And so it's like, what a great way to just continue to entertain the masses. Just bring them things that they love and bring them the cheese and bring them the fun and go fly. It's great. It's great.
Yep.
He does the same thing with Mission Impossible. It's all about Tom.
Yep, totally. All right, Kelly, I think that'll do it for this week. We are at time. And we'll be back next week to see where Moon Knight takes us.
Find and figure out who is the main guy.
The real guy. Who is the real guy?
What if there's a third guy?
Traditionally, there has been 3 alter egos in the comics. So, one little thing. I read on Reddit today that apparently the Moon Knight diehards are not that excited about the depiction of Mr. Knight in this movie, because I think traditionally in the comics, Mr. Knight has not been comedic at all. He's been more like cerebral and like an ass kicker.
Like, is this like the first time where Marvel's kind of created a character to be comedic that's not comedic and it's pissed people off? Like,
yeah,
it's
kind of
it's what you get. Yeah, it's what they do, and they just that's what they're gonna do. So that's my takeaway for episode 2, folks. Is like, adjust your expectations a little bit, and I think the rest of the ride will probably be more enjoyable as a result.
Exactly. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Also, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, hit that follow button. Leave a little 5-star review. Every little bit helps. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.